Josh, is Epoch Times really associated with Falun Gong? Depends on what you consider associated with. Epoch Times was founded by Chinese Americans who had escaped persecution under China, some of which did practice Falun Gong. I think if people understood what Falun Gong was, they wouldn't think that's a bad thing. Falun Gong is based on truthfulness, compassion, tolerance, right? Basically, the idea of being honest, kind, and able to endure hardship. It depends on how you consider a religion. If in China, there's different ways you would weigh religions. There's the religions like Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism. Then there's practices of internal refinement, like martial arts, like Tai Chi, and so on. Qigong being one of them. Falun Gong would have been is part of that secondary type, like internal refinement. In China, would not technically be considered a religion. In the United States, the definition of religion is much more broad, and so it is considered a religion in the United States, but really just standards people hold themselves to of integrity. Again, brutally persecuted in China. In China, there were close to 100 million people practicing by 1999. The government in China, under the Chinese Communist Party, again, Jiang Zemin being the main one who did it, determined it was a threat to the atheistic rule of the Chinese Communist Party and said annihilate it. And they launched a persecution of disinformation, re-education through labor, torture, murder, live organ harvesting, you name it, against 100 million people in that society. And if you consider 100 million people, that's what, one out of every 13 or 15 Chinese people, not to mention how many have friends or family. And because they couldn't find a way to justify the persecution, they created disinformation, which many Western news outlets also repeated. And so you essentially have a group of people basically just trying to be good people who've been deeply maligned and extremely brutally persecuted for their beliefs in China. And yes, many of them did escape China. Some of them came to the United States, and that some of them did found the Epoch Times with the purpose of creating a media that could never be censored. And I think that was it's a very respectable mission, right? Something which I think all of us are now enjoying, a media that allows free speech and actually doesn't have a whole lot of red tape for folks like me to give you all the real news. So, yeah. But again, a lot of media who don't like Epoch Times or don't like Epoch Times, but don't like alternative viewpoints, have done everything they possibly can to try to turn people against Epoch Times. And because they have nothing to turn them against on, they've mostly just been trying to target religious belief and saying, oh, look at these people who are persecuted in China, and the Chinese government, says they're a cult or something like that. That's the only basis they can really criticize us on. It's ridiculous if you ask me, especially coming from media like New York Times and so on that claim to believe in, tolerance and diversity and so on. Technically, Epoch Times is a media started by persecuted minorities. Technically, we should be like the most progressive media in the world, but we're, maligned because of it. It's quite ridiculous. But again, I think you can all be the judges of whether you feel the information here is accurate and reliable. And we, of course, do our best to meet those expectations.